I'm here at the Akron Zoo today in this fantastic, beautiful fall day with Molly the Otter and Doug Piakash, the CEO and president of the Akron Zoo. I want to talk a little bit about their upcoming levy. On November 4th, voters are going to have a choice in issue 47 to support the Akron Zoo for a continuation and expansion of their levy authority to support the operations, the capital expenditures, the expansion of the zoo. This is an unbelievable asset. As a community, we're lucky to have an asset like this. It attracts visitors, it creates investment in our community, and if I told you that you get $8 back for every buck you put into the zoo, you'd think it was a pretty good deal. We do too. The Greater Akron Chamber is in support of this levy for the zoo, and I wanted to spend a little time asking Doug a few questions about what they're doing here, how they're going to use it, and the mission of the zoo. So Doug, you know, you've been here with the zoo leading for a very long time, and the zoo has had support for probably 20 plus years from the public. Talk about how the zoo has evolved since you took that work on and since it's gotten public support.
Well, thanks, Steve. Yes, I've been here at the Akron Zoo now for over 20 years. Originally in several vice presidential positions helping to build the zoo. In fact, when I first came, that was one of the reasons that I came here, because the Akron Zoo and the community support that it enjoyed really set it on a trajectory that was unlike any other zoo opportunity in the country, let alone here in Akron. Over the last 20 years, as a result of this partnership with Summit County voters, the Akron Zoo has been able to leverage this informal science learning center to encourage what started out as about 100,000 people a year when I first arrived here to now over 400,000 people a year to engage with our mission triangle. The Akron Zoo's mission triangle really talks about connecting people to wildlife, inspiring lifelong learning, and conservation action. When we look at the impact that we've had on the education landscape, not only across Summit County, but across Northeast Ohio, for example, in 2019 alone, we partnered with over 80 school districts delivering science and STEM learning education to over 90,000 students. 90,000 students were involved with our professional education department just in calendar year 2019. The end result of that really lets us be able to leverage an authentic science, conservation, and education experience for those students in a way that nobody else can.
So Doug, you're asking the voters to add to the support for the zoo. In addition to the current millage that is already coming to the zoo, you'd like some additional support. Tell us how you'll use those public funds to expand what the zoo does.
All right, thanks, Steve. The bottom line is the Akron Zoo for the last 20 years has grown substantially. We've gone from a very small zoo to a larger facility that engages more people. And with 100,000 people coming and using the park back in 2000 to now over 400,000 people coming, that's a very clear increase. Our animal residents in the park have expanded to over 1,000 individuals representing 250 species, and all of the opportunities from an educational standpoint have dramatically expanded as well, as our education programs have expanded to supply science and STEM learning opportunities to over 80 school districts across Northeast Ohio, including 15 out of 17 school districts inside Summit County. What this additional dollar would actually support right now is an expansion of those programs, and also we would be responding to survey respondents from the people of Summit County over the last decade who are looking for us to expand potentially Pride of Africa with an exhibit feature centered on giraffes.
Now, so the zoo has been a pretty conservative and fiscally responsible organization over time. And you know, some recent articles and things have said you've got all these assets sitting around. I know a lot of that is your facilities here, but talk about how the board has stewarded its resources over time.
Sure thing. The net assets of the park are just like your net assets at home. Your net assets are made up mostly of the value of the property you own. So when you look at net assets of the zoo, the majority of that are the buildings that you see here on site when you visit, the property that is owned by our board. But the dollars that are actually involved in that, our board has done two critical things. The first one is made a commitment to Summit County voters that we will not spend money on interest from loan payments that come to us from taxpayer dollars. So we have not taken out a single loan in the last two levy cycles to support any of the construction on site. Instead, we have saved up front every dollar that each of these projects would cost us before putting a shovel in the ground.
So Doug, so if I were a critic, I'd say, hey, we just had a pandemic. People are feeling it a little bit. Why come for a levy now? But my understanding is this was already on the ballot, right, before the pandemic hit?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Steve. The Akron Zoo's levy support is a 7-year levy, and it expires in full every 7 years. The last time that we were on the ballot was in 2013, so the next time we needed to be on the ballot is 2020, and in fact, Summit County Council approved the ballot language last December before we ever even knew a pandemic would be in our future. So the reality is that we do need to be on the ballot now, or we risk effectively half of the funding that supports the Akron Zoo.
As an organization that focuses on helping our region create the investments and the jobs we need to thrive, we look at the zoo as an example of the kinds of investments that we're making in our community that create the kind of place people want to be, that attracts talent, that allows us to grow investment and jobs. And so we would encourage your support of issue number 47 and the Akron Zoo. Those resources will put to great use by the financial stewards on the board and the staff of the zoo, and will also continue to create the kind of amenity that families and kids for generations to come can really take advantage of. We hope you'll support issue 47.